All right, so thank you everybody for joining us today for our second hybrid events. We're looking forward to today's event and just getting a chance to learn a lot more about how to start a startup. Today's event, like I said, is how to build a startup. So just so you know, everybody, this event is being recorded. So if you don't feel comfortable, feel free to turn off your camera. Just know it's being recorded only for our purposes, and we share it with the community again from our website, and just have it for social media. That's it. Let's start off with first thanking the Capital Factory. Without them, this would not be possible. They are our sponsor. They give us the space. They help us out with Zoom. They help us out with whatever we need whenever we have questions about stuff. Oh, Tim, next slide.
Can you put that presentation?
Present.
Which one? Oh, present. Yep. There you go. Excellent.
Yeah. Oh, I can read it. I can read it. Sorry, guys. Oh, you might need to share that screen with Zoom.
The one that
Sorry, guys. Technical difficulties real quick.
So share on Zoom.
Yeah, so if you share on Zoom.
Some people said they're having audio issues.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Better?
That's better.
If you want, I can share myself from this side. Or I can just speak about her.
The microphone should be picking up. Yeah. I think it's
Okay. All right, so yes, thank you, Capital Factory. We appreciate everything y'all do for us. Next slide, Tim. So today's event, like I said, is going to be on how to start a startup, questions, things that you might want to learn or know before you do this. The event flow, we're in the moderated Q&A format style. The audience questions will be welcome. There'll be some topics such as, ventures, the process, day-to-day management, how to do funding, business hacks, things of that nature. I'd like to invite my two speakers up, Charles Wyble and Hans Enqriquez, to go ahead and introduce yourselves real quick.
sorry.
Oh, yes, next slide.
I was staying up here.
Yeah. So the camera should just be focused up there for them, and I'll move over. So, Charles, would you like to go first? Just introduce yourself, a little bit about you, what brought you here today.
Yeah,
Kind of
Where is it?
kind of right there.
I'm Charles. Nice to meet everybody. I've known James for about a year and a half now. And he put this together, invited me down to speak about my startup. So here I am.
Perfect. And Hans?
Hi, Hans Enqriquez, CEO of TSYS Inc. and CEO of NetX Holdings, a publicly traded company, and startup junkie. Been doing this for quite some time, and thanks to the Hispanic Hacker Group for inviting me, and could answer some questions and help you guys build your startup yesterday.
Sweet. Awesome. All right. Tim, next slide when you're ready. Okay, so a little bit about us. For those of you that are new, we are Hispanic Hackers. Our goal here is to be a group of Hispanic oriented individuals. Doesn't necessarily have to be, but software engineers with the goal of getting out there, being in either the software side, the hardware side, whatever we need to do to learn a new skill and to help build your portfolio and your online presence. I am James Lockwood. We have Laura Evans here. We have Timothy Quang. Is Eddie here today?
Eddie's here.
Hi, Eddie. How's it going? Eddie's in San Francisco right now. So.
Hey, folks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Next, Tim. So goals for us as a community is to advance the knowledge in technology space. We do monthly events featuring different topics from software to hardware. We focus on developing career opportunities for our members. We help to connect companies with people that are looking for work. We do whiteboarding and interview practice events. And really, it's just about creating a community around people in tech and getting the word out. Next one.
Stuff.
Oh, no.
I pushed
We
it.
can see it on Zoom then.
Oh, perfect, okay. All right, so if you want to get involved, please feel free to reach out to us, let us know. We're always looking for new people who want to help out. It doesn't matter what your skill is. Really, the goal is, if you want to do something to be a part of the community, that's really what matters to us. If you want to help work on a website, we've got one of those. If you want to help work on social media, we have that too. Really doesn't matter. We're looking forward to anything anybody would like to do to help out. That's pretty much it. You can get a hold of us through Slack, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all the places. You can even find us on through getting a hold of the Capital Factory as well.
Is that all linked on the meetup group, or do you have a website?
So we have a website that will be on another slide, but we do have that. You can also find us on our meetup. If you look at the QR code on the bottom right corner, that is also a link to our meetup page. So we're going to try to do this. One thing we've been doing over this last year was we do a group photo where we get everybody from around wherever they're at, and we just do a screenshot so we can add it to things like this and just show the different faces and the people that are involved, the people that are here. So without further ado, if you are not comfortable with this, please feel free to block your image. Yeah. Perfect. All right. You'll hit the next one.
Yeah.
So we do also do social events. That's one thing we're definitely working on trying to do for our community. We do have a scheduled once a month event, which is the fourth Tuesday of every month. But we also want to get out in the community and have fun. Like we want to do a pool party. We want to do just like a barbecue and hang out on the river, and just anything in general, just to have fun and just to kind of build that community outside of tech, which is not so many people do here all the time, awesome, but we want to try and do it because it'd be more fun. So, all right. Tim, the next one. So our next event, by the way, will be the fourth Tuesday of August. It's going to be from 7 to 9 as well. We are not sure if it's going to be a hybrid event yet. Very least it will be online for sure. Probably similar to the way we did it the last time. We'll do breakout rooms. Things have calmed down a little bit, we'll try to do hybrid as well. Just going to kind of depend on the way the world's going at the time. It'll be whiteboarding event, so come prepared to answer some questions, take that practice data structure test, learn how to do something fancy with CSS maybe. The sky's the limit. If you want to ask questions as a questionnaire, feel free to reach out to one of us and let us know, and we'll definitely figure out a way to schedule you to be able to help us with that. So just keep an ear out for that. If you'd like to RSVP for the next event, you can check us out at the link. You can scan the QR code and sign up for our next event as well. Thank you. The next one. And how to find us. So central hubs are our website, Hispanic Hackers, next at vercel.app. You can find us on Slack. If you're not a part of our Slack channel, feel free to join. It's free to join. It's a good way to talk with people. We share information there 2 times a week. It's a great place to meet up with other people. You can find us on our meetup page. You can find us on LinkedIn. We do have a group on LinkedIn. You can find us on Facebook, and then you can also get a hold of us through Capital as well. Okay. The next one. So one thing we want to try to do this time is do a social connections party. This is Tim's idea. We wanted to try it out. So,
So if it doesn't work, maybe take it.
But it's a good idea. No. So anybody that's in person, feel free to share I think if you can do this from your mobile, from your app, you can share your person somehow. Where you can do a Bluetooth party, I think is what it's called, right?
Yeah, we did that.
So you can do like a Bluetooth party, we'll do it here. But also feel free to share your LinkedIn information in our chat. And anybody that'd like to connect with anybody, feel free to just click on that link and connect with them. All right, so without further ado, we'll go ahead and start our question.
Let's do the audience, if they have any announcements.
Oh, okay, let's do that. Wasn't a slide for that. So guys, one thing we also do like to do at each of our events is there anybody that is currently looking for work right now? Open up the floor. Feel free to raise your hand and let us know what you're looking for, a little bit about yourself. And then after that, we'll follow up with people that are hiring, and maybe we connect all together. Maybe we can, we might know someone that's hiring what you're looking at. You never know. So anybody that's looking for work, feel free to raise a hand and introduce yourself. Tell us what you're looking for.
I'm not sure who said was, but he said he or she said he would love some work.
Okay, Zen Full Studios.
Yeah, I'm happy to help do that.
Oh, thank you, Maria.
All right. So is anybody else out there looking for work right now? We all fully employed?
So someone's gonna follow up with him, get his resume, or what's?
Yeah, so Zenpool, can you kind of share your background a little bit? Can you hear me?
I think so.
Well, I heard James ask.
So Zenpool is a pool player and promoter in Austin, Texas.
Okay. All right, so, great. Did you share your LinkedIn information with the group?
11 years of experience with Airbnb reviews. Zenpoolstudios.com.
Okay, cool.
There's also Zach, who is a good friend of mine, actually. And he is looking for some software engineering work.
Okay,
So he's got a few years of experience under his belt, and he just shared his LinkedIn.
perfect. All right, so folks, is there anybody else looking for work? All right, so, out of everybody that's here, is anybody's companies, are they hiring right
Just a
now?
real quick question. Was that shared in the Zoom chat?
Yes.
Okay, will that go away?
We're gonna save it
We
afterwards.
save it and then we add it to the live page that's out there.
So we got Zachary so far in Zenpool.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, Maria, feel free to introduce yourself and tell us about the agency.
Hi, so this is my first event here with you guys. My agency, Rasso Solutions, we do contract to hire, direct hire, and we have an offshore center in the Philippines. And we do IT staffing, finance staffing, and HR and marketing. So we have a lot of software development roles. Kind of somewhere where we play really key is ServiceNow. So if you know anyone with those skills, we always have clients looking for that. But we have a lot of remote technology roles, direct hire and contract to hire. And I work with managing our clients and also managing our delivery teams. So I'm happy to, go over resumes, even if it's just like you haven't updated it in a while and you kind of want to see what we're seeing in the marketplace and what's working. Yeah, absolutely. Add me on LinkedIn. And if your company's hiring and we could be a fit too, that's always a good thing to give me intros to. But the company would pay us like a fee for a finder's fee. So for candidates, coaching, looking at our job order board. That doesn't cost anyone anything. So if you're interested in exploring new opportunities, then you might be a fit for one of our roles. We could submit you, and then that wouldn't be of any cost to just, look at your resume and kind of get your foot in the door. So if you know anyone or your company is struggling in this market and just wants pointers or wants staffing services, my company is Rasa Solutions, and it's pretty good. So don't hesitate to reach out.
Awesome, thanks, Maria. Is anybody else out there hiring anybody at the moment? Anybody else looking for employees or help?
Hey, this is Eddie. I'm not hiring directly, but I work at Facebook, and we're always looking for people, and I'll be happy to refer you if you're ready to get grilled in the interview, I guess. If you have any questions, just reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Is Eddie?
Same for me, everyone, I work at Amazon, I'm not hiring directly, but if anyone also wants to get grilled, then we are looking for program managers and software engineers, not on my team directly, but I can always give a referral. So.
Perfect. I know my company's hiring as well. I work for Win Reality. We're a virtual reality software company, and we're looking for front-end developers, back-end developers, data science, marketing, kind of the whole lot of everybody. So you can check. I'll drop the link into our page as well in the chat in a little bit. I know we're hiring as well. Anybody else out there hiring right now? All right. Well, then without further ado, we're going to go ahead and start our next portion of our event, where we're going to have our panel.
I already have a question for the group, so whenever we open up for questions.
Okay, perfect. Tim, do you want to take off the screen share? And I guess we could probably screen share.
I'm just spotlighting the camera.
Oh, perfect, okay. That'll work, yeah. Okay, yeah, I can see this. Okay, so let's just so they can well. Yeah, let's do that one.
So yeah, I'll do that when you guys
Figuring it out.
And I know somebody was having audio issues. Did they get that resolved?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, so are we ready on y'all side, ready to start?
Looks good from here.
All right, y'all guys ready up here?
Yeah.
All right, so without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and start. I have 14 different questions. We may not get to all of them. I know there's some members that have questions as well. So every few questions, we'll open it up and see if anybody has a hand and wants to ask a question. We did do a little bit of a brief introduction for our two speakers, but I guess we can do that. We can skip that question. So first question is, what is something you wish you knew before you started your startup? Who would like to go first, guys?
I think just the difficulty of finding talent. I mean, I knew it was going to be difficult, but it is really difficult, especially in a hardware startup looking for software hardware startup. We finally just a few weeks ago found a firm that specializes in that. So, yeah, took us a long time.
Okay.
I would say, I mean, I'm focused in the cannabis industry, right? So I think the thing that I wish I would have known that, that legalization would take so long, right? Or that the startup process is not hitting a home run right away. I mean, that you're going to swing and you're going to strike out so many times. I think it just, how long it would take, kind of setting my expectations from the beginning. And then in business school, there should be a chapter called crying. Yeah. So whoever's in business school, there's not a class called crying, but there should be one, when you got to question yourself along the way. So, yeah, I think that's probably just the realistic expectations. You come out of business school and you're just like, man, I can do anything, and you're completely wrong. You absolutely know nothing about anything. So yeah, that's probably in general.
And just following up on that real briefly, I think the amount of drain, not as much it would have on me, not that it does, but on people around, right? You need to really find people you want to go find. And usually that's other CEOs because it's no one else really.
Yeah, that's actually great. You realize that you have less peers, and the people that you have the most in common with, you have to find them. So yeah, and one of my partners that I mentioned earlier about community brought it up a lot about community. To know how to utilize it from the beginning. At first you feel like you're on your own, you're doing everything on your own, and you don't realize that the community is there to help you. So something like this, like, man, if you discover this early on, there's so much benefit to it. So yeah, that's another thing I wish I knew.
Awesome.
And also to be careful how many, if you think of a graph of nodes, right, with one person, don't have too many, because you can just suck everything out of them. So try to find multiple people to kind of load balance a little bit. To your point about community. You find one good person and it's really, you're so desperate. Oh, I finally found someone, and you can very easily just turn them inside out. So.
Yeah, I understand that. All right. So another good question. Why did you decide that startup life was right for you? What was it inside of you that was like, that's it, that's what I want to do?
Insanity, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. I think you have to have that kind of personality already. I guess kind of free spirit, a little bit of a rebel, and I guess issues with authority or something. It kind of chooses you. You know that's what you want to do. You enjoy working for yourself. You enjoy building stuff, and there's like a self gratification to it that you just can't get through anything else. So I think that's kind of what made me say startup life is for me, and how many startups have I done, and kind of veered off the track and got something really shiny and new, and then realized I had to go back and focus on core, what's been getting you here, right? But yeah, I mean, it chooses you. I mean, you don't have a choice. You do it, and you're sucked in, and you either commit or you don't.
For me, it was seeing what capital could do. I deployed over $9 billion of capital before I turned 30 for several corporations, and seeing when you took money and people and built something. I mean, these were basically startups inside large Fortune 500s, but it was, you can really move really fast with the right people and the right money. So wanting to do that without any constraints was my goal.
I know I did a little bit of startup life, and it is fun. I enjoy it. I'm corporate right now, but that's also fun. But startup is a good. It's fun to be around. You never know what's around the next corner for sure. All right. So how do you manage your day-to-day life while running your own startup? What is that like? What does your day-to-day kind of look like for y'all?
I mean, I work off my phone. I mean, you get to a point where you can run your entire company from your phone, and you have to manage your time and managing your work life with your home life too. So, you're constantly trying to find a balance, and it never really, you can never get it right. So you just do your best. And I mean, I work from my phone, I work from my backpack, wherever I'm at, that's my office. And it's go time, all day, every day. Eat, sleep, shit, and do this all day long, and then try and find some downtime and really block out time for the family, because that's something that you can lose sight of really, really quick when you're just so committed to to getting the job done.
Yeah, same. I mean, I schedule my sleep, I schedule my date nights, and everything's scheduled every minute of every day, including sleep. Like I said, everything's scheduled.
Yeah,
If not,
scheduling
yeah.
is key. Yeah, I mean, without my calendar, I'm lost.
Yeah. And then the other thing I do is 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. I'm preemptive. So I tell my team, you can bother me during that time. Now you need to send a meeting invite, you need to have an agenda, but I'm available. But outside of that is when I do my deep work, right? So from like 7 p.m. to midnight is deep work time. Because without that, you'll just, I mean, you know, and even then I get interrupted because I'm working with people all over the world. So, but it's a lot less, and I can manage it. So.
All right. So one more question. What are some of the most difficult things that you had to face as an owner?
May I go first on that one?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious, but terminations, right? And when you have someone you've partnered with, you know, things are fine for a while, then things change in their personal life, and you know they're not performing, and they're not willing to take a furlough or work with you on a performance plan. It's really difficult because you know I want to keep the people, but sometimes you can't.
Yeah, firing people sucks. Yeah, it can be emotional. I guess like, you know, in my industry or cannabis industry, you know, it's high risk everywhere, right? So finding out that, I mean, government's not on your side, you know, finding out that you are fighting an uphill battle against pharmaceuticals and cotton and oil and energy, and everything that is a barrier is there, like, and absolutely every reason for you to quit along the way is given to you all day, every day. So
That'll never work.
Yeah, it'll never work. Yeah, no, I mean, or cannabis will never be legalized, or what, you know, and or you'll never get funding, or the banks won't touch you, or you know, marketing. You know, you work for Facebook. I mean, we have very little avenues and platforms to advertise and market.
We don't get instantly banned.
Yeah, you know, so well, you know, so there's how many difficult things could I come up with? I mean, there's like a million war stories along the way, but I think I'll go back to some of those those times where like things were really difficult, like, you know, whether it be a funding thing or just something emotional that you hadn't dealt with before, you know, like firing somebody or you know, working with partners or having a friend that was on board that, you know, it's not working out anymore. And it's tough to make those decisions, you know, and they do take a toll on you. You know, you lose sleep on them sometimes, and it's tough. You know, you feel sick to your stomach. You know, you're not sure if you want to get up and go to work the next day, but that's what it is to be a startup or an entrepreneur. It's like, do you get up the next day and do it again? And insanity says, yes, you get up and do it again. And you know, so yeah, lots of difficult things, you know, but the point about it, all of that is that the sun always rises the next day. It's never as bad as you seem. It's not the end of the world. In the grand scheme of things, it's like this small of a bump in the road. So like, you know, don't stress about it as much, like, or you'll get gray hair sooner than you need to. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it was kind of figuring out, you know, the difference between having a board of directors and they're responsible for the company and all stakeholders, and having my own sort of advisors that really look out for me, right? And those two things, figuring that out took a while, and it was difficult to kind of partition that up. And those are completely separate people; they don't overlap. You know, that was a lot of a learning curve.
Constructive criticism,
Absolutely,
learning how to take that too. You know, if you're running the show, you know, you kind of need to be right, but you're probably not all the time, you know, and so learning how to take constructive criticism, how to make, you know, difficult meetings productive, how to move the ball forward when everything's against you. Those, you know, and being creative, like ultra creative and resourceful in like stressful times, like that is like when pressure makes diamonds, like that's the killer part. Like, can you navigate the challenge, you know?
And I think on the feedback side and on being right, I think a lot of times I'm wrong tactically, and it's a lot easier. You know, but when you're wrong strategically, if you don't have those people, that's when it's really, really dangerous.
And that's what the board is there for. That's
Exactly.
what mentors are there
Yeah.
for. That's what your community is there for. So like you can bounce ideas off, like take advantage of that, right? Because like,
Yeah, don't use your board meetings for status updates.
Yeah,
You should be
no.
doing deep strategic wrestling.
yeah, and you know, just knowing that you're not the smartest one in the room, like get everybody that's smarter than you to, you know, to tell you how to do things, you know, and you can make the end decision, but you know, get other smart people around you. That's going to help you get through those difficult times.
Very cool. Sounds like community is definitely a big part of it. It's all about the, you know, what is it, 1,000 people to raise the child, or it takes a
Takes a village.
takes a village to raise the kid.
Yeah.
So that's cool. So I'd
And
like
you
to,
always need more people from the community than you think.
yes,
That's really the key.
yes. I'd like to give a couple seconds or a couple questions to the audience. If anybody wants to ask a couple questions, this is an opportunity. If not, we'll keep going.
I have one from Zenpool earlier. His name is Manny. Hi, Manny. I'm sorry. I just read that. So Manny promotes professional billiards in the Austin area via YouTube. They currently do not monetize any of their content because their following is relatively small. So he was told that affiliate marketing is one great way to help monetize live content. The question for the group is, do you know of any new and emerging ways that I can help professional pool players monetize their live content as a startup? Thanks in advance.
I'll let you take that since you've got a greater promotion challenge than I do.
I mean, you know what? The first thing comes to mind is like, well, like use like a platform like Twitch, you know, and get sponsors and get people to wear your shirts and you know, when you're creating content, you know, there should be an end game to it, right? And monetizing it or converting, you know, is the end game. There has to be a purpose for your content, right? So if you're just streaming the pool games for fun and it's not, you know, it's not bringing people into a funnel to where you ultimately can convert them, right? So think to that, right? Think that the funnel is here and ultimately you need a guy to get down here. And there's about 1,000 ways to get them within this funnel, right? And so, so now you have to use, you know, the community, use influencers, you know, use hashtags, use a little bit of SEO. When we talk about community, right? Concentrate on local, you know,
Yes.
and then build regional and then go global. And your following and your evangelists will help build your company for you.
Let them do the heavy lifting.
Yeah, like make them brand ambassadors, right? So for, you know, for very small budget, you know, we're talking startup life, like zero money. What do? You know, you have to max out everything you can do for free, right? So the pool games are content, and what are you going to do with them, right? And the more content you get out there, it's on the internet forever, and do some positive things with it. Teach people how to do it. Do educational videos, because those things, like, I mean, shit, I'm only good at pool between beer number 4 and 5. I'm a pro. Anywhere before that or after that, I'm the worst pool player ever. So teach me how to play pool, you know, and some geometry tricks or something like that.
Well, I think people will search for that, right? On, you know, they'll go and search for it later, as opposed to, you know, like live content goes stale fast.
Yeah, I mean, the video could be called "How to Play Pool for Beginners," right? And that's like probably a great search term. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, monetize it, right? Get creative. How can you do that? You know, and I just think like Twitch, I mean, is like just like such a not new thing, but you know, as far as streaming and online gaming and gaming teams, like what an untouched market still. You know, I still think it's still not you know, widely used enough. Hope that helps you out.
I would even venture to say TikTok, honestly. Everybody's moving to it, and it is such a great way to get traction for something like that. You could teach how to make this shot, how to make that shot, how to do a fancy thing or whatever, how to make, you know, how to, not necessarily how to hustle, but how do you do a trick shot? And that would get, you know, that'd start your community and start people following you.
Yeah, and TikTok's like for an audience that have, you know, the attention span, you know, you got 15 seconds. So,
Yeah.
you know, TikTok would be a great way to to get some, trick shots viral, and then send them to your YouTube page.
Yeah, 15 seconds is almost too long. I feel like you get like 5 seconds
Yeah.
these days to grab people's attention.
Yeah.
Is there another question by chance?
No,
Nope.
Manny just says, great answers, guys. I'm doing all these things already, and it feels great to hear that I'm on the right track.
You are on the right track. Keep going.
The work is the work.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So next question is, how do you know if startup life is not for you? I mean, I feel like it's kind of an obvious answer, but
You'll know real quick.
you'll know real quick.
You'll know real quick. When you run out of money.
Yeah.
I mean,
How you react to that.
Yeah.
Because you will run out of money.
Yeah, you will run out of money multiple times, right? I don't know. I think you'll just know, dude. Like, you'll just know if the pressure is too much, if you're not one who, it's okay to not be a leader all the time. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to be the one, like, moving, running the whole show all the time. And I even, enjoy sometimes someone just telling me what to do. Like, hey, like that way I don't have to, be responsible for everything. Like, so I think you'll know real quick. I mean, leader skills are also developed too. You're not born with it. You might work at a certain company. You might work with a certain, trade, and then realize, hey, this is something I might want to do on my own. So doesn't happen right away, but I mean, it's not a bad thing if you're not like, you could still be a rock star at a company and not be the CEO.
Well, I think also you can kind of split the difference. You can do a freelance or consulting, go out on your own in, like you said, in your existing trade or something. You don't necessarily have to go build a company and hire people and get funding and do all that, as your first step. In fact, I would say you almost shouldn't. Can you get up every day when you don't have a boss for 3 weeks and hustle? If you can do that, well, I won't say you succeed, but you'll be a lot further along than most people. So I would suggest doing something like that. And there's tons of freelance gigs out there. There's tons of,
Cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
being self-motivated.
Yeah.
If you got a problem self-motivating, learn how to self-motivate.
or find a co-founder. There's a lot of people looking for folks, let you try it out, let you write some code, do whatever, do some marketing and whatever your skill set is, see if you can work in a non-traditional structure.
Or a partner that holds you accountable. And then you might wake up,
Exactly.
I think having someone accountable, holding you accountable is definitely motivating.
Yeah, doing it solo is, I've done that.
We're still doing it, right? We're probably
Yes.
still doing it.
Yes.
Good stuff.
Awesome. All right. So what would be some of your company guidelines / rules that you follow for positive movement and growth? What are some of the things that y'all do that, this is going to work, and this is why we do this for that reason, kind of, and it helps with growth and positive momentum.
Well, for us, it's every time we launch a balloon, every time. Oh, so I never really explained what my start test. Sorry. We're building high altitude balloons to bring internet to everyone in America for $5 a month. So every time we do a new launch, that's a huge success for us. Or every time we spin a new board or, make an improvement, it's very tangible type results. We aren't marketing or anything yet, just because, we did some of that a few years ago and we've already got hundreds of people lined up and it was too much. So I was like, okay, we need to go back to kind of, I'm not gonna say stealth mode, but a lot less outreach. And press can be bad. Like even really good press it drives people to your door when you're not ready or whatever. But that was another metric, how many emails we get and things like that.
For me, it's just kind of like a literally onward attitude. Like, you kind of don't have a choice. Like, you can cry about today's issue, but you have to get through it. Like we as a company, there's this like, it's almost like this emotionless numb factor. It's like, dude, we don't have time for that. We need to move, like get it done now. Right. And so when you do run into challenges, you just realize that they're not as bad as they seem, and it's onward, and there's always a silver lining. And in my experience, I feel in hindsight that a lot of bullets we dodged were fate. It wasn't supposed to happen, so if the deal didn't get closed, or the store didn't get open, or the product didn't get launched, or whatever it might be, it was still like, well, no matter what happens, the company goes on tomorrow. So what are we going to do? And in those moments, just being like ultra creative and resourceful and be like, all right, like, you really have to think like, all right, where's our focus? Where do we misstep? And so having an onward attitude and an onward and upward, like that's the only way to go from here. It's if you've hit bottom, well then you go from there, you go up, so staying positive, reminding things, pressure makes diamonds. Yeah.
I think not too much planning ahead. Like you don't necessarily have time to do a lot of analysis on an outcome. You have to make a decision, you have to move on. And very rarely will a decision not be able to be undone or changed. Waiting for a decision creates paralysis.
Yeah, that's another thing is like, make the decision. Like I'll take a 90 to 95%, confident decision over waiting 3 weeks to be 100%, and like perfection will never happen. So get going, move on, correct mistakes as you're moving forward.
Very cool. All right. What was a difficult stage or moment in your startup, and how did you overcome it? Doesn't have to be the hardest thing or that you ran into or the biggest wall, but what would be something that y'all ran into and you're like, oh, this sucks? And
well, I've ran into it multiple times. Being in cannabis, I can't even count the amount of banks have shut us down or merchant services that we've lost, right? So being able to take people's money, like, from one day to the next, you're like, dude, I can't take credit cards anymore, or my website has been shut down, or, where do we deposit our cash? So having gone through that multiple times and then, figuring, you've got, we've been shut down by everybody, Square, PayPal, Wells Fargo, First Data, IBC, Chase, Capital, every single one of them, right? And then just kind of like, all right, well, what do you do? And it's like, well, it's not, let's go find a bank that you create a relationship with versus just being a checking account.
Yep.
And kind of diving a little bit deeper into that. And so just like, we as a cannabis industry want to have access to all of the same services that most businesses have, and we don't have access to that. And for unknown reasons, this just doesn't make any sense. So anyways, just the point is that the banking thing was tough, and then as you're trying to market your company organically or even through paid, you have, limited platforms, so just kind of navigating that. I think that's the ongoing difficulty of the industry, or things that just needed to get done and you had to learn them yourself. As difficult as it was, you're like, man, I got to learn another skill. And so like, I don't know, just learning to do some basic coding or, Photoshopping or Premiere or just, doing some normal editing. Like, hey, it's expensive to get product photographers or editors. And so some of those times you had to learn them even though you didn't want to, and stayed up late night learning how to code if you needed to.
It's like you can buy a DSLR that does one thing, and you can buy an iPhone that does 20 things. You gotta make that iPhone work. That's got a nice enough camera.
Yeah.
I think for me, to a large extent, echoing what he said about learning skills, hire versus learn it yourself. And a lot of it has been learning it myself so that I can intelligently interview people, because, it's so hard to vet talent once you've got them. I've got a pretty extensive network, but it only goes so far. It's tech-centric, as I'm sure you all mirror. So getting outside of that has been difficult. But you can learn things pretty fast. You really can if you put your mind to it. That's the key. But it does take working, 18 hours a day. It's just, that's what it is. It's not a brag. It's about results. It's about, some people can put in a few hours a day and get amazing results. It just depends on what you're doing. So getting that and getting to that, ramping up to that over, a period of time and sustaining it and staying healthy has been a challenge. It's not so much the company, it's just myself to run the company basically.
All right. So that kind of brings us into the next question, which is, how do you move from, free help, your friends helping you out, to being able to pay them? How do you go about that? What is that?
Delay it as long as possible.
Yeah, right. Yeah, drag it out as long as possible. I think you get to a point where like, that the quality of work that you're getting requires compensation. And so free work is only going to be so good. And then they're only going to be so accountable. And you realize that the company's got needs and you've got needs, and free help doesn't get the job done, or they're not as committed as you are because they're not getting paid, right? So you get to this point where you're like, dude, we need to make some money, or we need to raise some capital so that we can hire the right people to do the job 10 times faster than I can do it, trying to do it on my own at 3 in the morning.
For me, it's been, I had this sort of acquire capabilities with internal cash, so equipment, tools, and acquire capacity with outside cash, to your point about, when you hire. Because as soon as you raise outside capital, it puts strings, right? And so now it's like, well, okay, I don't want them to ever be able to own a means of production, right? But if we have to lay everybody off, or they try to sell the or whatever, it's like, okay, that's fine. All the assets are over here, right? So finding when you raise capital is super important. And also being willing to tap a truly global talent base, because there's a lot of people that want to build their resumes and have different cost concerns and things like that internationally. Like in the US, free labor is really difficult. In a lot of the rest of the world where there's social safety nets and things like that, it's a lot easier. So being open to that and finding those people, again, community, but really scaling it. It takes a lot of work. I spend almost all of my time looking for talent. So that's and then delaying, and then you got to give up equity too. You got to give meaningful equity to key talent. They're not gonna. Oftentimes they won't even come in with just straight compensation. They're gonna want equity. So.
Very cool. One more question on. You could both kind of touched on a little bit, but how do you even go about looking for funding? Like, where do you start at, and how do you know if you're doing it the right way? That kind of question. Is there a right way? Is there a
Yeah,
right
go
way?
for it. Yeah.
Well, for me, I'm trying to raise a lot of money, several $1 billion, because it's a very capital-intensive business. So we're talking large institutional funds. We've had to get a lot of stuff together up front, accounting systems, all these kind of things that you normally wouldn't need in a small business or startup. They're serious people looking to make serious money. So that's our startup is very unique in that we built it from day one to be $1 trillion company. I mean, that sounds very like, I don't know how to, there's no humble way to say that. So, but yeah, so for us, we've delayed it a lot longer and we're raising a lot more. So that is, most people don't need that, right? It's a few MacBooks and a co-work, right? Is your expenses. For us, our R&D, all this stuff is in the several $1 million. So I've put in myself over $100,000 over the last 10 years. So. And that's doing everything from goodwill and bargain basement and building myself. It costs a lot of money. So I've been very fortunate that I've been able to do that and basically do my own seed round. Most people can't do that. So
how would you go about raising money? Well, first, I mean, how do you get money, right? So first, it's like you've got your own cash, right? And I mean, this is like how you can start from like
friends, family,
friends and family, right? It's called pooling your money together, right? And, so I mean, literally, you've got $100 you got to put together, right? So how much cash you got in your pocket? How much you got on that credit card? Which of your friends and family actually believes in you enough to lend you $20, right? And then what do you have as collateral that you can get a loan against? And then are there grants and angel investors, and then you have institutional investors.
And can you tell a story? Can you tell a really good story really quickly?
Yeah, and why you do it, right? And what's the purpose? And so you do your pool, you do your first pool, right? And that gets you your first $100. And we're gonna break this down. It's ultra simple, right? Everything is a lemonade stand. You're just adding more expenses to it. So how do you raise money for your lemonade stand, right? And so how much it costs for your table, your lemons, your ice, your cooler, your whatever, your cups. And so you have to go out and go pool some money together, right? And Charles is he's building $1 trillion company, right? So that's going to take some big storytelling, and it's going to take a lot of planning, and there also has to be proof of concept, right? So Now you got your first $100.
Can't do that with PowerPoint.
Yeah, you can't do that with PowerPoint, right? So you got your first $100, you did your lemonade stand and you showed that it was a success and you made a profit. Now you've got a little story to tell and you go back and you can go say, hey, I've made more money. I want to build 10 lemonade stands. And you just kind of keep scaling it from there. So and then how do you find it, right? I mean, well, you can, again, you go through the pool, friends and family round. You find, in our industry, it's very difficult to go directly to the banks, but in other industries, if you already have a checking account or a loan or some type of, relationship with your bank, start there. Tell them what you're trying to do. Like, and that way the bank is building a relationship with you along the way.
And you'd be amazed how many people down on 6th Street you sit down next to are millionaires or billionaires. I mean, it happens all the time.
All you have to do is talk, right?
Yeah.
So like, this is a great platform, right? So go out and meet people, go out and find other business people. When we talk about cannabis at the bar, there's always someone who's leaning over to you, you're like, you're doing what? And you don't know if that guy's an oil tycoon or some tech millionaire. But here in Austin, I mean, there's somebody who's wearing torn shorts, probably looks like a homeless guy, but he's driving a Tesla out front, So
Yeah.
Networking is huge.
Look at people's shoes.
Yeah,
It's a great way to see. All the time you see brand new, really expensive shoes. And I saw a guy the other day who was driving his truck that had holes in the window, all that stuff. Look at his shoes. I was like,
or their watch.
yeah. And then he had a couple of really nice knives.
Yeah.
So he spent like $500 on those knives. Okay, that guy's got money.
So I mean, talking is part of how do you get money, or how do you get funding? Well, one is proof of
Awareness.
concept. Make sure you've got a good, you got a good plan behind it. You mentioned planning ahead. I mean, you can have a 5-10 year goal, but you really need to have a short term. It's how am I going to get from point A to point B over the next 12 months to 3 years, and then you can start giving yourself some kind of direction. And as you hit milestones and as you're raising funding, you tell them, look at the milestones I've hit over time, and hopefully that is financial milestones too. And you may not be profitable at first, but you're raising money to get to, the next level, right? So you have to really show why you're raising money and what it's going to be used for. And I mean, think of it like this, dude. Like, raising money is also a full-time job. And what you're trying to do is get somebody to click from their bank account to yours. That's really all it takes is some clicks. So that's really the difficulty. Like, it's not as somebody having to lift weights or do anything. It's just having somebody use their finger, click, and it goes from that bank account to yours. And it could be $50 or 50 million, but it's still just a couple of clicks.
And I think the hardest thing is don't be afraid to ask. I talk to people all the time. They know people that have money in their network and they don't ask them, why don't you ask them for money?
The worst thing they can say is no.
Yeah, right. What's the worst thing they say? Or and no doesn't always mean no. No actually means not yet. I don't know enough, or maybe not today, or I want to learn more, or I don't want to invest in you in this project, but bring me something else later on, or just be part of my network so we can do business together.
Well, and one strategy is to get them to pay you to go away. Just talk them to that, bury them in paper. Here's it's like, all right, here's money, go away.
Yeah, that's another way too. Yeah. So go out and get it. Go out, look for it. You gotta. What did someone say? Dial and smile.
Yeah. Well, that was boiler rooms, but yes.
Yeah. Is that what it is?
Smile and dial.
Smile and dial. All right. Cool. All right.
To push the worst.
There you go.
Worst of the worst.
Okay. How would you validate your work? How do you assume success?
For me, I think it's at this point in my career, I'm searching for, I guess, security, family security, right? Once I'm totally cool that my family's good, and then that for me is just one, milestone of success, because then I'll move on to the next thing, right? But I want to make sure that all the staples, the bases are covered, and Maslow's hierarchy is taken care of, and then I have a little less worry about, taking additional risks, right? Because so limiting my risk and taking care of the fam. That's step one. I mean, accolades and awards and all that other stuff. I mean, they're pieces of paper and they're fun and whatnot, but what are you truly doing for society or legacy or community, or, you know, like money's fine, money's great, right? But like, I don't want to be known for just being an asshole. You know what I mean? Like, you know, so I'd like to, you know, make a mark as far as like, hey, in the cannabis industry, if you know, if I'm part of developing medicine from cannabis and it helps sick people, that's a success. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, for me, it's always been about impact, right? It's about connecting people, about bringing internet to you know, all kinds of places that don't have it. It's not so much to make money. I mean, that's part of it, but it also just takes a lot of money. So I have to tell a certain story and be a certain way to do that. But if I can connect, you know, 10 million more people or 100 million more people, I mean, because today you can't apply for a job. You can't, I mean, it's very difficult to do anything. And so we have huge swaths of this country in a, what is our economy, like 70 trillion GDP? I mean, it's ridiculous, right? We're supposed to be this great country and we're not, right? We don't. And so from the most basic stuff, I mean, you have places that are still in dial-up. It's ridiculous. So moving that forward is my everyday. And I look at that, you know, the true north, right? Is this concept you hear, is every decision is made in that framework. Does this move the goal forward? Yes or no? If not, get rid of it. And it's all consuming. It really is. I mean, that's, I think a lot of people don't talk about enough is to be a truly effective founder. It's all you do. You know, permeates everything.
Awesome. What would you say are 3 of your most influential books that you know helped your business grow and move on?
What are your favorite books, dude?
A Hard Thing About Hard Things is a big one.
Write these down in the chat, guys.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What is it?
The Hard Thing About Hard Things. The Art of War.
That's a good one.
I think it was, I forget, it was the 3rd book. It's about like 8 really successful CEOs. It's like The Outsiders or something like that. I'll get it to you. I'll look it up after, get you the, it's basically about 8 CEOs who built, you know, very, very successful organizations just through efficiency, through, you know, taking care of the employees, just.
Cool.
Let's see, some of my favorite books. There's I mean, Built to Last, Good to Great. There was one I really enjoyed. It was called Why Women Buy, you know, and it was just to take, you know, I come from retail, right? So just to take a small look into the mind of a female, right, on how she's hardwired completely different from the male in how we consume things, right? And so in the cannabis industry, which is very male dominated, I wanted to find some insight and go, well, what would make, you know, who is the holy grail customer within cannabis, right? And for me, it's, you know, a soccer mom with disposable income who's completely okay with cannabis. And that means she's okay with talking to her family about it. And at that point, it's accepted. So that was one of my favorite books. I thought was really cool. And another one that I really enjoyed, and it's kind of like a black arts book, right? But it's called Trust Me, I'm Lying. Mm-hmm. And it really teaches you about media, right? Like media manipulation, and it's full of stories of black hat tricks and a lot of stories of white hat tricks. And the reason I like this book is that it really explains the power of buzz and hype, mm-hmm. and what you can do with it, right? So with startups here, this is a great book for startup people, for startups, because when you have limited budgets for marketing, this book tells you like how to really utilize what's available there to you and what you can do and how you can build buzz about your company or your product, or at least give you some ideas on what's available, right? So it was just such a neat book on, you know, on marketing. And what it taught me though was, you know, you can get burned playing with fire. And that's what marketing and publicity and you know, and press is too. So It was just a great book on marketing. I really enjoyed it, and you know, it really talks about how media can be manipulated, and you as a consumer, how you are being manipulated. So it was kind of neat to at least be on the other side of that, and just kind of learn, you know, both sides of how marketing works. It was cool. Yeah, check out that book. Good to Great, Built to Last: Why Women Buy, and Trust Me, I'm Lying.
And the book that every founder should read is called 0 to 1. And it explains how we've stagnated since the 70s, how we haven't innovated, how things have just gotten better, cheaper, and faster, but there hasn't really been any substantial improvements, and how to build a company that, and it goes into like Microsoft and Google competing on office suites. It's like, really, you have $1 trillion market cap and that's what you do? Like, come on. You know, you could be curing cancer or, you know, whatever, and you're doing this. You know, it's a phenomenal book. It's free. It's an ebook. You can get it.
What are you reading right now? Like, what book is on your list? Or
I'm not actually reading anything right now. I'm listening to a lot more podcasts. So
listening to audiobooks. So if you have time,
yeah, I've done a lot of audio.
Yeah, so if you have time, we don't have time to read, right? So, you know, audiobooks is work from driving. So I'm actually listening to Ego is the Enemy, which is kind of cool. It's a good one. Check it out.
Very cool.
Actually, that's the Soul of a New System is what I'm listening to. It's about the history of deck, so compact deck, that whole thing. Yeah.
Good. This would be a great time if you want anybody in the audience would like to share in the chat anything that y'all would like, or y'all's favorite books. Feel free to share them. We'll all have this chat for everybody at the end. You can save it, and we'll also have it on our website. So if you miss something, it will have it for you later on. The next question is, what are the three most, or I'm sorry, what mindset is important before starting a business?
Well, business or a startup, because those are
Startup. A business startup. No.
Well,
Startup.
I mean, because a lot of people could start a business, like I said, a consultancy, freelance something, and just, you know, you need clients, you need hustle. Starting a startup is where, you know, you're going to get your first revenue in a month, let's say, or whatever, right? Versus a startup, it could be 5 years. So, I mean, and that, I guess, and kind of answers the question, a long-term view, patience, but also speed, right? So balancing that is, you know, you get incredibly frustrated, but also incredibly excited in sort of equal measure, and being okay with, I guess you call it a roller coaster, often on an hourly or daily basis.
I mean, in the cliche, right, where it's like, I'll say your passion, right? You know, because, well, you need that first, right? And you'll get to the point where passion isn't enough, right? But you need to have that mindset at first, like, hey, this is what I want.
And a focused passion too.
Yeah, and a focused passion, yeah. So it's, you know, everybody can be passionate about something, but you have to start there, at least be like, hey, this is what I truly want to do. I want to commit to it. Focus, you know, and then all the above, you know, everything after that, and you know, discipline comes along with that too, because there's so many distractions, dude. Like, I mean, really, I think everything else is put there to distract you from what you're doing. So, you know, just that mindset, you know, I think discipline and passion, and then all the other things should fall in line after that. You'll have to learn a lot of things along the way.
All right. What's the biggest hack to rapidly grow your startup, and during what stage is that?
Raise $1 trillion.
With $1 trillion, you can market any business, you know what I mean?
Even on the moon.
Yeah.
No, I mean, rapid growth, I think, is a dangerous thing to chase. I think that you already have enough problems just day to day. If you suddenly scale up, that's when you lose culture. That's when you lose context. That's, you know, I don't think that's something to chase personally. Now, I mean, once you've got your thing solid and you're hitting a curve and, you know, you scale up your sales, okay, cool. But a lot of times it's like, you know, when you grow your income, you grow your expenses, right? For a lot of people, it's the same kind of thing that companies can be doing. Oh, we raised a bunch of money, let's go hire a bunch of people now. So I don't think you should personally.
Biggest hack. I thought about this question, right? And like, this is the Hispanic Hackers Group, and I'm thinking like hack in the terms of technology, right? And then I'm also thinking of like mind hacks and business hacks and
Life hacks.
Life hacks, right? Yeah. So what were like my favorite cheats along the way, or things that I learned, and when you should do them? I mean, the stages are going to be different along the way, right? So we'll tell a couple stories here, right? So early on, right? So when you are starting your startup or your business and you have no money and you're homeless, you get a gym membership. Okay, and the gym membership allows you to go read a book on the stepper machine, right? So now you're not only exercising your body, but you're exercising your mind. And since you're broke and you're homeless, you don't want to bother your friend or use their shower. So there's a shower there. So go ahead and shower at Gold's Gym or whatever gym, and work out your body and your mind. At the same time, you're getting blood flow to your body. You're staying healthy
And some structure.
Yeah,
That's critical when you're coding all day or marketing or on sales calls. You need structure.
just move your
Break it up, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you're sitting in front of a computer, right? I mean, you're not doing anything, active. This is a break, right? A mind break. So this is when you can do some reading and get some exercise. So then so this would be early on, right? The next little hack was Whole Foods. Okay, so you can build your entire company on Whole Foods. So so I remember spending a couple of summers there, but I one particular summer, I was there almost every day for 3 months. You can eat there, you can use Wi-Fi, you can people watch, you can take a break, and you can drink beer when you're done. So like you kind of have everything there. You're outside of your element. You're at, and
I think we're supposed to tell them to use Capital Factor.
Yeah, Capital Factor, yes. So a co-working space like this, right? And you're around other people building businesses is what, So those were two kind of life hacks, right? Then a small one is like you can do everything on Photoshop, or you can like jump on Canva and do it in 5 minutes, right? Another life hack was like to read. Like you have to be a student. Like you can't pretend that you're like learning something new every day, or if you're not going to school, or you're not actively trying to learn. So I think reading was like a big deal. And my wife was, English major and had read tons of books. So then like just competitive nature was like, well, I got to read too. I got to read more books than her. And also is that like, this is competition, right? Where, you have competitors. I do want to be smarter than the next guy. I do want to be smarter in my competition. I want to read books that they've never thought of reading, and especially in my industry, right? So where we're in an industry where it's complete stoner stereotype. So my job is to break that and to be, I can still be true to the industry and my culture, but I still need to be professional. I've got to, and I have to break through all those barriers, right? So those are little life hacks that work for me along the way. And then community, using the community, your community as early on as possible. Like you wouldn't know how much help is actually there. In the beginning of this meetup, I mean, you were asking people who's hiring and who's looking for work. Like, wow, that's awesome. Like, what a connection. Like, I wish that was around when I started. So those are hacks, dude. Yeah, definitely use your community, read, go to the gym, and eat right.
And the thing about working out of a place like that, you'd be amazed how much that self-selects for people that are curious and they see you there every day. Hey, what are you doing? Like that creates the best connections because those people are the people you want to connect with. Yeah. They're curious. They're, maybe not extroverts, but even introverts after a while will usually get comfortable if they see someone regularly. That's huge because that's the kind of people. It's like if you're curious, I think that's the other thing we didn't really mention other than passion. You have to be curious because they learn, read constantly. If we want to talk about hacks, I can certainly talk about that being a hardware startup. You learn really fast to basically, you go look at the really expensive, because the thing about all these expensive places is they have really good like marketing and information and stuff. So you figure out everything and then you go buy it from China, right? Like that's what I've done a lot of. So you look at the price and you're like, yeah, there's no way I can pay $4,000 for that, but here it is for $400. Yeah, it's not quite as good, right? You have to know enough, but always be looking for cheaper stuff. You have to value your time to a certain extent, but you could do a lot more yourself than you think. And then just like, find people, secondhand surplus, there's a lot you can do if, bio, whatever sort of hard science, hardware stuff, especially in Austin, there's a huge surplus community that can really help because if you look at the price, you're like, I got to go raise money before I do anything. I can't even get a POC, a proof of concept. And can be really disheartening. So just, hustle, be willing to just do things that are there are hacks. You're constantly hacking in early days.
Yeah, like that book, the book I mentioned earlier, Trust Me, I'm Lying, like that book is full of marketing hacks. Like, so it's, how do you start a bonfire when you got less than a match? That's the type of mindset you have to have, and when you're trying to build hype or buzz, and you're on a low budget, I mean, you got to get creative and resourceful.
Leverage.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what, how do you use influencers? How do you do things in trade and barter and whatnot? So just little things like that I've used along the way, and they come in different stages. So wherever you're at, you'll meet those challenges.
And also, like, going back to Twitch, I think just doing, like, I'll stream my coding a lot, like all day. And yes, it's kind of boring, but you never know. You might meet somebody
who finds something, who just might join the convo. Yeah.
It's about exposure. It's about just over a long period.
Here's another one: proving yourself as an expert, right? So we're not experts like in anything, but we have more experience, in certain areas. And
maybe specialists,
right? Yeah, and so going back to the pool guy, right? Zen Pool. There may be very few pool expert content creators out there. Well, guess what, Zen Pool? You be the first to the finish line. You are now the expert of pool on the internet. What a hack, right? Because you went and made the content for a niche community that did not exist. And now you are these so-called specialists and expert in pool tips and tricks, right? And you just jump to the front of the line by creating good content.
Yeah, people remember me as a balloon guy. Now, let me 2 years ago, like, oh yeah, you're a balloon guy. It's yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. That was all the questions that I had for today.
Awesome.
I'd like to open the floor to the audience. If anybody has questions for both of our speakers, this is now the time. Raise up your hand. You want to type it in the chat, whatever you want to do.
What prompted you all to do this, to have a panel and everything on startups? Was it driven by the community, or?
Yeah, this is driven by the community. One of the topics and ideas that we discussed at the beginning of this year was, how do you build a startup? I mean, we work out of the Capital Factory. They're obviously a resource for us as well, and they're a resource for our community. But we'd like to hear from people who are actually doing it, people who are startup owners and who have gone through the struggle of creating their company from the ground up. So it's definitely something we're all interested in at some point in our professional career. So, any questions? Do we have questions here in the audience?
Hi.
No?
You do? What's your question?
Yeah, just curious if you all had any opinions on, I guess, like the small percentage of Latinx people who raise venture capital. Your basis. If you had any opinions on that, and feel free to answer the question.
It's not enough. And
You mean not enough funding or not enough people doing it?
not enough funding and not enough people doing it. I think we fall into a category of minorities along with with Black, Asian, Indian, and so when it comes to banking and that, I think we fall into that same challenge too. A lot.
Muted 1 second.
Okay.
Are we good now?
Beck?
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Like on the fund formation side, aggregating that capital and going out and investing or seeking deal flow from that community.
I did attend a empresarios, that Austin, probably about a year ago, right before COVID, right? And it was a Hispanic event for business owners, and it was sponsored by like Aero Mexico and IBC. And first time I had been to an event like that. So I think seeking out, right, and building them. I think so. Like this, I didn't know that this one existed for till mid last year or something like that. And so coming to this and then finding other Hispanics or Latinx, associates, peers, entrepreneurs, find them, go get them. Let's build it together, right? I mean, I'd love to be at a point where I could help fund other Hispanic, startups. I truly enjoy that. That's awesome.
So there's a lot of VC firms are really just running their own money from like Google exits and stuff.
Yeah.
So the risk, they're not really taking a lot of risks that I think maybe other people would be. Maybe especially if they're running, true outside capital as opposed to their existing exits, which of course are generally white.
Yeah, there was something on LinkedIn I saw the other day. It was like just how many Black female CEOs were there in the cannabis industry, and I believe somebody found like one, so, I think we're all in that boat, right? Where we're kind of fighting the norm, but that's what we're here for, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hack our way to the top.
Yep.
There's one from Manny, wondering how you guys stay sane with so many problems and obstacles on your day-to-day persistent pursuit of your business goals.
I am in the cannabis industry, so I smoke a lot of pot. I self-medicate. Yeah, I mean, I don't really take, other drugs. I rarely take a Tylenol unless I'm in serious pain, and I daily consume, and that's a way to help me either relax or slow down. And in particular, it's a good way to have deep thought about big decisions too. Sometimes you feel you have to make the split decision. It has to be done right now, but go smoke a joint. You might think differently about it, come up with a better idea.
Yeah, for me, it's just, managing the stress, trying to head off things before they come to such a critical pressure point. It's taking care of things early is really how I do it. Trying to avoid it becoming stressful. Because once you're managing stress, I mean, you're always going to have some, but once it becomes greater than 60% of your time, you're in a bad situation. And then from there, you start making mistakes, and it just spirals. So.
On that, right? You can use the 80-20 rule with stress. What causes 80% of your stress? Whatever that answer is, fucking get rid of it, and then go concentrate on what's making you money.
The next question is from Daisy. How long did you have the idea of your startup before actually taking initiatives to build/start it?
I've worked in the smoke shop industry before, so I was in retail, so the kind of natural progression to just do something within the industry was, and I mean, my logo was drawn on a pizza box in crayon. 15 years later, we're still running with the same logo trademark. So I don't think it was like
you're getting a free education.
Yeah, I don't even think it was like this major decision. Just kind of like that's what we're gonna do, and you went for it.
Yeah, more or less the same. More or less the same.
Does that answer your question? Yes.
Sort of.
Not right now.
I got a question.
Yeah.
So how do you guys find hiring talent right now during this time period with COVID, and then possibly approaching another lockdown? So, is it easier to find technology people online, or is it better to source people locally?
I think it depends on what they do. Certain things
like engineers, software.
Yeah, well, especially for me being a hardware startup, we have a shop, we have a facility, we have all this equipment. The hardware people have to be there, right? Software people are distributed. Marketing is distributed, all these kind of things. So we tap a truly global talent base for that, and just only things we've had to do, and that's been the case since before COVID. So we were really fortunate in that regard to already be distributed first, remote, whatever you want to call it. over document, everything's in Discord, we communicate that way or through, tickets. So documentation is just built in, and then that also helped us attract talent because we could say, look, here's our entire event stream. Go back, go through it, look at it, see how we work, see the team. Because you can interview, you get an hour and a half maybe, right? Maybe you split that 50-50. It's not really a good way for either side to evaluate the other person. This way, you can evaluate everything. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like talent, there's no shortage of people who want to be involved in like cannabis. I mean, I think we find a lot of people who are just like, oh, that would be fun, right? But it's work. Yeah, it's work. Yeah, and so, but when you find good talent, I mean, we're finding a lot of people are like really open to doing different things, right? Because they're moving from one profession or career to another, and I find that there's not a lack of talent. It's just, finding the right people and we'll say putting the right people in the right seat, right? And getting the wrong people off the bus and the right people and creating a team that's going to work together for this long-term goal. Because cannabis just seems like, oh, it's super fun, right? But when you have to become accountable in certain areas, for the stoners, it's not so fun anymore. Like, oh, this isn't cool anymore, dude. Not because we're making you work. That's why, yeah. But there's so many different areas in cannabis. I mean, it can be from engineers, plumbers, electricians, tech, data, marketing. So there's not a lack. It's just finding the right people.
Awesome. Go ahead.
How long? And you can say. Like you were smacking your face on the wall every single day.
No, I'm still smashing my face on the wall. Yeah. I don't know. It's just.
And is this pretty like your first startups or second startups or?
It's like my 20th or something. Yeah. No, I mean, there's times where it's like the startup part is the easy part. I mean, you can start up anything in like 24 hours. Like that's the easiest part. The hardest part is keeping it going. So like, I mean, what does it take to do a startup? Like $15. I mean, go down to the county clerk and make a sole proprietorship and you're in business, but keeping it going, right? I think that banging your head on the wall thing ends about 10 years into it, but you just do it less and you're just kind of less hard on yourself, but you're still smashing your head and grinding your face into the floor a couple of times a day.
Yeah, I mean, for me, there's one overall startup, but out of that, we've built several others to service various needs internally, or we looked in the market and found, like, for example, we're starting our own insurance company, right? It's just all this like crazy stuff because, it's such a unique thing, right? And so we're building this like huge ecosystem as we go. We're doing some co-op stuff. We're doing some, distributed ownership, things like that. So very different than a lot of other, trillion-dollar companies, right? I was talking to somebody today, one of my advisors, was like, why doesn't Amazon give all their hourly employees 5 shares? Like, why can't they share in that wealth creation? So looking at that and figuring that out and building that culture has been my primary challenge, because that's also to attract the right people. Because there's a lot of phenomenal talent that might get attracted to a huge valuation, but is going to want to do things in a certain way that they're used to from, say, the other large, trillion-dollar companies. It's like, well, we're not building that. So,
yeah, I mean, some startups are, easier than others, right? I mean, you can get from point A to point B pretty quick, and then you're hands off and
build another SaaS app or something.
Yeah, and then you kind of move on to the next one. In a lot of the things that we did, it was more of like developing a product or a brand, right? So to get from point A was, all right, we come up with a concept, a name or a product, and then it was completed when the product was on the shelf.
Yeah.
Now it was up to the
tangible endpoint.
Yeah, and then we're done. So like that was, so the startup part is the easy part. I love the business 101. You're like, oh, build a website, build a Facebook page, and you're up and running, right? But after that, it's like, all right, now you got business and expenses to manage.
So 10 years. How long did you say, sorry?
Oh, I've been working this for about the same, yeah.
Well, I mean, just consider this, right? Like, I mean, I'm not sure how old everyone is in here, but like 10 years is going to happen no matter what. So, you know, I'm 41, I will be 51 in 10 years. Where do I want to be, right? No matter what, I'm gonna reach that age. So I gotta, you know, shit's gonna happen from now till then and where I want to be.
Well, it takes that long to meet people, to build connections, to build, you know, figure out what you're gonna do. Like, you know, raising the money, I've talked to people, it's like, yeah, they want to see a plan. They want to see that money be put into something. You know, I think that's the hardest part of, like you were talking about, you know, the cost of goods sold, right? You know, your lemonade stands, like most people haven't sat down and built a business plan. They haven't figured out, well, how much does this really cost, right? And then you double that, right? And then you quadruple the amount of time it's going to take, right? And all these kind of things. It's like, that's what funders want to see. They want to see that you've done your homework, right? Because most of the time, especially if you're raising from the local community, family offices, things like that, these are people who have already built successful businesses. They're looking for those intangibles. You know, do you have the grit, right? The ability to do it for the long term, to think about things that are going to come up. And a lot of times they're not even looking, I mean, they want you to have expertise in your vertical, cannabis, telco, but they also want to see, can you solve all these problems that every single business has, right? Cash management, hiring, you know, business processes, right? Can you run a calendar, right? Like I've talked to so many businesses where they can't run a calendar effectively. And it's especially in a service business, right? You've got to be able to do that. So just, that's what they're looking for, is all these kind of things, not necessarily even for a return on investment. Of course they want a return on investment, but it's risk capital, right? If they've already, like you said, if they've already got their family, everything taken care of, right? You know, they're looking to, I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of businesses in this region that are doing several million in revenue a month, and they have no idea what to do with it. So they put it in the S&P 500, right? They don't need that money, right? I mean, their kids and their grandkids are set up for Harvard or whatever, right? They want to put it into something, right? That's what you have to understand when you're raising that capital, is like, once you've gone beyond sort of the friends and family round, you're talking to people who really don't care about a return. It's all upside for them, right? So they could take it to Vegas or they could give it to you. I mean, it's really the same, to be honest, for most startups, it's the same odds, right?
I like to add maturity to it also. You know, I started my first business when I was 24 years old, right? So
yeah, I started mine when I was 12. I started a newspaper.
There you go. Okay, so like, yeah, so it really, like, I mean, kind of depends on where you start, right? And we all mature at different points in our time. We probably have, you know, every 3 to 5 years, your priorities are changing. So, you know, when you first start your business, it still may be really, really, really fun, you know, and then there's going to come a point in time where like, this is not fun anymore, you know, and then it's work, right? Yeah. And because like, I mean, you know, how many trips out to Vegas did we have too much fun when we should have been working, right? You know, you go to these conferences and so there's a maturity level there too, right? So I'm a big kid, so I'm still maturing too. So, you know, I have to, you know, just, you know, as you move, you mature personally, you mature business, you learn how to talk to people, you learn how to articulate yourself better, you build confidence and all that. So, you know, it takes time. So I wouldn't give it a timeline. It's just do it. And you know, some people can knock it out when they're 12 or 24 or, you know, or it takes them longer to mature, you know, through business and learn how to talk about their business, right?
And I would encourage people that are still working and want to do a startup, you know, find a company with a good manager. If you feel like your manager is just okay, you know, do some interviewing, jump around, right? Like for me, I was deeply fortunate that, you know, my first job, I was, you know, I built a data center, right? And then all the way through to coding and, you know, handling massive scale logistics, right? My second job, you know, I was there for like a week and I just happened to know enough about Active Directory and things to tell management that the company they hired was terrible. Well, they fired him and put me in charge, right? I was like 22, right? And then from there, I deployed $9 billion in capital, right? So for us, you know, I mean, it's just the opportunities I had. I was very fortunate, right? And so from there, like I was working 96 hours a week at that job. I'm like, well, I could be doing this for myself, right? So
yeah, I didn't have any corporate training too, so I kind of had to learn it on my own, right? Like, so I didn't have great managers to teach me anything, or like I went straight from business school, from the mall, working at the mall to opening my own business. So, you know, some additional training will also get you there too. So I didn't have that, but you know, it can help.
But you got it fast. You got
Yeah,
the real
yeah,
world.
yeah. Real world will yeah, you're gonna pay for education one way or another. Whether you go to school or you open your own business, you're gonna pay for that education. Either way is great.
And I always tell people just do the business, don't go to business.
Yeah.
Not that you shouldn't have some, you know, do you have an MBA or?
No, I have my bachelor's.
Yeah.
I started working on my master's, but like with that being said, right?
But keep some of those people close to you, I think.
Yeah, I
Because
mean,
there is a lot of fundamentals that are important from that.
the education gives you like basis, right? So like when I was talking about earlier, it's like there wasn't a class called crime, right? So you learn a lot of vocabulary words, right? And then you experience them in the real world. So that's good training, right? But at this point, I mean, you can get a Harvard MBA off of YouTube, right? And learn just what learn exactly what's being taught at Harvard, right? So when you're talking about hack and resourceful, well, go become an expert and learn everything you possibly can in your field. Like that would be the smartest thing, right?
And also like for me, learning those fundamentals has been important when I'm vetting, like say an accountant, right? You'd be amazed how many accountants just sort of are terrible, right? Other professionals where, you know, that's something where, and by the way, I said, that's things you should pay for, right? Like there's a lot of things you can get your friends to help you. Things like that, where it's, I mean, you engage in all kinds of regulatory domains, but every business is going to engage in accounting. You know, pay the $300, okay? Like, don't do that yourself.
That's your most important expense.
Yeah. And you can deduct it, right?
Yeah,
So,
that's your most important expense. Get an accountant.
Yeah, don't mess around, but know how to vet them, right? Study up, ask them questions, ask them a lot of questions, because so many, and a lot of times you get farmed off to a bookkeeper, right? You're not actually getting a CPA. So, but there's CPAs that are terrible, so. Do your homework. That's something, I think that, you know, back to your questions about hard things to learn was that, you know, there are people out there that, you know, have gone to the school and done all the things right. And, you know, I have a friend of mine who their accountant didn't file their taxes, you know, and now the accountant paid all late fees and everything, but it's like, you had one job, right? So everyone makes mistakes, but that one isn't excusable. If you made a math error, okay, but you didn't file the form. I mean, come on. Yeah.
Oh, geez. All right. Is there any more questions from anybody else in the audience? Guys in the back, ladies in the back? You seem very, yeah. All right.
Cool.
We have applause. All right. All right. So without further ado, then I'd like to thank our speakers that were both here again. We have Hans and Charles for coming out today. This is our first time doing something like this. And if you like this, please let us know. We want to continue to do events that are different, thinking out of the box, and just, you know, provide opportunities for everybody in our community and the rest of the community here in Austin. If you know anybody who has questions about startups and things like that, feel free to reach out to us. We can make the connections. We can connect to people here at the Capital Factory as well. We'll have the chat saved and it'll be on our website. We'll also share it in our Slack channel. This video is being recorded, so it'll be added to our website and our Slack as well. So that way, if you wanted to come back to this later or share this with your friends, that option will definitely be there and available. If there was someone's information that you missed on the chat, we'll have that for you later on. You can also take the time right now to save the chat if you want. There's a button on the right somewhere, I think, that allows you to save it.
Yeah, little 3 buttons and then hit save chat.
Save chat on the right, 3 buttons. Other than that, then hope everybody has a good night, and thank you everybody for coming out tonight. We'll leave the live chat on for like a couple more minutes if anybody wants to hang out. But we'll stop recording also.